Welcome, welcome back to Crafting a Meaningful Life. So, I want to tell you about something that was going on in my life right after the holidays this year. And I had a friend that I had been kind of talking with, and she was going through a rough patch in her life. And finally, I realized it's not a rough patch. Her whole life looks like this. And one day I said to her, let's talk about what do you get from making everything hard. And she just looked at me like, what? I'm like, yeah. What is the reward for you that everything is hard? And she still wasn't cluing in. And I said, every time I talk to you, major drama is happening in your life. And I feel like there's something in your brain that says, this is the way life is supposed to be. This is how I know that I'm of value because I work through all this stuff. And at the same time I was doing that with her, I got an email from Julia Henning's PR person. And he said, do you think she might be a good fit for your podcast? Her book is It Gets to Be Easy. I'm like, I need that book. Oh my gosh. My friend needs this book. The whole world needs this book. So I said, yes, yes, yes. And so today I have this beautiful woman with me today, Julia Henning. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here.
Oh, you look like just like such a young person, but you have gone through so much life and so much learning. When I was reading about you and all the things that you've accomplished, I mean, you have your master's degree in psychology, you are a life coach, you have written a book. You have, and a book in your 30s is not necessarily the average standard accomplishment. You had a podcast for a long time of giving people permission to let it be easy and to step in the fullness and the authenticity of who they are. And so when you came on the podcast this morning, we're like, oh my goodness, she's so far advanced for her age. But then what we talked about was, but so it needs to be. We want this planet to move along, and not everyone have to be in their 70s before the light switch comes on. So Julia, thank you. Thank you for your being and who you are. What else would you like to tell my listeners about what is Julia? Who is Julia?
Oh, well, thank you so much. Like I said before, I deeply receive that. It's such a gift to be acknowledged for the effort that you make. A lot of these achievements that we call them were always bred from honestly just a source of inspiration. I mean, writing a book began as just, could I do it? It didn't really have any attachment of the accolades or the success or the outcome. It
Right.
was more just, I had a vision of writing a book and I thought, let's give it a shot. And the universe conspired to make it happen and all the ducks came in a row. But that's kind of, I think, the crux of who I am. And when people ask me, about my bio or kind of who I am, I say, well, what do you want to know? You want to know what I do, what my job
Yep.
title is, or do you want to know what I do, how I live?
Yeah, who I
And
am.
so who I am. And I think that question's a bit more interesting. But just for a little context, I'm Julia Henning. I am from Michigan, Detroit, Michigan. I live in Los Angeles, California now. I've been here for about 10 years. As you said, I'm a certified life coach with a master's degree in psychology, but I have a background in acting, directing, writing, and immersive theater. And over the years, yeah, such a twist. And that's, I always tell people, I'm like, the podcast, my workshops, my retreats, my events, the book, everything has a little bit of an immersive element to it. Nothing was ever meant to just be two-dimensional. And so even like with the book, I said, I want people to be able to go online and have additional resources and
Yeah.
challenges and, masterminds so that they're getting a full experience. And I think that everything I've ever done, I mean, I hail from the Midwest and I'm now in Los Angeles. And something that's always stuck with me is if you have a good set of values, if you have a vision of the life you want, no matter where you are, it can be an immersive experience where all of your senses come into play and everything that you believe in can be a part of every choice. And I find that a lot of people, in my experience, believe that they have to sort of choose what kind of life they're going to have. And subscribe to the ideas, the values of that life. And something about me is I just let it be easy in saying, well, I believe in all these things and I want to do all of these things. So can I take what I believe in, plug it in all these things, and will they work? And most of the time they have. That's just,
Yeah.
is that a little 2 cents about me? I'm always like, how do I answer that question about
Now,
more
I
about me?
get that. I get that. But yes, that is, and it is not about necessarily about what you do, but it's who you are.
Mm,
And that's what I know about your journey on this planet and mine, and that is in what makes us similar
hmm.
is that that is what we believe is one of our visions for this planet
Totally.
is to help people understand their authentic self and be
Mm,
able to step into that. And that's why you have this wide array of talents and skills you're bringing because you work with a wide array of people.
hmm.
And you need to be able to open your arms to them so that they feel safe. They feel like this is a place I can be me, authentic,
Mm.
and trust. And that's what you create.
All right, again, you're already making me blush and want to cry within the first 10 minutes. I'm like, I receive so deeply. And to that, I just want to say, when people ask me, what are my favorite things? What do I love? I think the best way to actually umbrella what I say about myself is my biggest passion, my biggest hobby is being alive. It is the awareness of consciousness. So when people ask, how did you go from acting to writing to philosophy to psychology to coaching? I say because the bottom line in all of those modalities is the human condition. I am very passionate about the human condition and the awareness that we have that a lot of people I feel don't tap into. And so when you're helping someone, my version, my mode of helping someone, like you talk about permission, authenticity, is to really get somebody comfortable and give them that permission to be in the awareness and acceptance of their consciousness. And when I start saying words like that, people kind of go, okay, yeah, I'm with you. What do you mean? I'm like, I'm just obsessed with the idea that we are alive and we get to be alive for a short amount of time. What are you going to do with your aliveness? And to inspire people to look at their aliveness, their consciousness in this more profound way, I have found has been my door, my opening into the work that I do. That, oh, it's fun, it's exciting, it's inspiring, it's healing to give people a space, to give people permission to have the conversations about what it means to be human, not on autopilot, not the auto doing, but the human being. And so I
Yeah.
always start every conversation with that. I'm like, what's your passion? It's the human condition. It's everything.
Yeah. I have used that phrase so many times that we are not human doings, that we are human
Mm-hmm.
beings, and it is about
Mm-hmm.
being and not about doing. I spent the majority of my life being about doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I've often said I was just like a post-it pad, notepad, that they were stuck all over me so that people could see and I would list all the things that I do. So
Mm-hmm.
that gave me my worth.
I get
And
that.
to be able to finally strip myself of those post-it notes and
Mm.
stand naked is the greatest gift I've ever given myself. And then that becomes then my greatest gift to the planet.
Mm. It's liberating. I
It's
mean, it
so
really is
liberating.
liberating. Mm-hmm.
So I want to talk all about this. I want people to
Mm-hmm.
read it, but I want because it is like a wonderful book. Okay, so it gets to be easy. What would you say is kind of the overriding philosophy, and what do you hope people get from the book?
What I hope people get from the book first is that I hope that they feel seen and witnessed. I find that in many self help books or self development books, there is always somewhat of a formula or somewhat of an ideology that you take away and you maybe integrate for a while, but then you kind of find yourself going, oh, I fell off the wagon of this thought, or I'm not doing the work. I wanted my book to feel a little bit more like a companion to, and like a
Ah,
friend. More like, I see you. We can talk about it. Pick it up when you feel like it. Drop it when it's not working for you. But less of a philosophy that promised to fix you and more of an idea about a way of living, a choice. And so in It Gets to Be Easy, the whole title is The Art of Authenticity and Other Life Lessons We Skipped. And I wanted to include that subtitle because the philosophy of the book is that we all have an idea of what life's supposed to look like. We all are told a certain way to live. We're all conditioned and programmed in various ways. But at our core, as humans, we all crave this idea of something being easy. Yes, people like
Yeah.
challenges. Yes, people want to push themselves. They want to be disciplined and achieve. But at the end of the day, we all, if there's an easier option, most of us are
We
going
want
to
that.
choose the easier option. So when I thought about like philosophy of the kind of mantra or motif that I wanted to put in the world, it really came down to ease as a philosophy and not a shortcut. So the book isn't about glorifying laziness or passivity.
Right.
It's about living in alignment. It's about self-trust and emotional intelligence. And I would say that at its core, I wanted to offer insight into what it would look like to deprogram hustle culture and challenging the belief that worth must be earned through struggle and offering a new narrative that was all about letting versus forcing, and that subtle but powerful shift from pushing to allowing and how that changes everything. And for me, there's a lot of books that have been coming out lately. I will give Mel Robbins her due diligence, the whole notion of let them. It's all kind of under the same umbrella of, you know, self-trust as the root of ease. I mean, most people know what they want, but they don't believe that they're allowed to have it unless it's hard. And so the nervous system and ease, it's talking about how the body plays a crucial role in choosing ease and regulating effort and feeling safe in receiving. And so at its core, long-winded answer, but ease is the philosophy, not a shortcut. And It Gets to Be Easy, I kind of, with humor, play around with these life lessons that we all sort of know. We hear them, they're in media, literature, but we kind of go, oh yeah, okay. It's just another cliche I sort of pass over. But I really wanted to bring awareness to those and go, but what if we gave them their due diligence and gave them a little bit more of a reframe so that it wasn't just, a passing cliche, but more, what if this was the program that you plugged into? And what would change about that if you gave yourself a chance to let it be easy? It being life.
Julia, as we all know, that the dis-ease in our world when our bodies go kind of wonky and we have a discomfort and a dis-ease, that's the lack of a presence of ease or
Mm-hmm.
easy. So, how do you see your work like coming in and helping us eliminate dis-ease and helping us get things easy?
First, I would say let's not eliminate anything, because to attempt to eliminate something and to negate it is to not accept it. Part of what ease is accepting some things are not easy. And I talk about this in the book, and a lot of people sort of have that, wait, what are you saying? I thought it gets to be easy. Well, it gets to be
Yeah.
easy, but it's not void of effort. It's not void of choice. Some things will cause dis-ease. That's a part of life. That is inherent to our human condition. We are kind of programmed to suffer at times. It's how we are actually keeping ourselves regulated and safe. But easy is sort of more about the external. It means something requires little effort, few challenges, no resistance. It's often out of our control. Some things are easy, some things just aren't. But ease is internal. It's a state of being. It's a way of moving through life, even when things aren't easy. It's about how you meet the moment, how you relate to yourself, how you soften into trust. So when people are like, what do you mean it gets to be easy? Why didn't you say or call the book It Gets to Be Ease? I said, because easy, first of all, is a more catchy title. And also, eventually, easy is about circumstances. Ease is about your relationship to circumstances. So eventually you'll start to see it gets to be easy. The circumstances in my life are starting to become more easier to navigate because I am living in a state of ease. And often that's about living in alignment with your
Yes.
values, the vision of the life that you have for yourself, and how you really feel and think about who you are in the world you live in. And so when I talk about, with clients or even with loved ones, oh, you're living in a state of dis-ease, I'd ask them, well, what do you believe about the situation? Okay. Where are your values showing up in the situation? Okay. Well, one maybe is lacking a bit in your relationship to the situation. Let's say one of your core values is community, and you have a job where you don't talk to anybody. So now you're thinking this job is so hard. Well, you might be really good at the work. You might feel like there's purpose in your life. You might feel like you're helping others, but it's not easy because you're missing that core value of community. So now you're starting to panic, spiral. You might even feel like you're abandoning yourself. So I would then encourage that person, well, how do you let it be easy? Is it reaching out? Is it asking for the opportunity to connect with someone? Is it perhaps finding a different job? And when you start to think about what's possible, you don't just accept, I'm in a bad situation, I'm in a hard situation, and this is the way it is. You look at, well, what do I have control of? And how can I alter my relationship to this circumstance to find more ease in it? And even though it's something that a lot of people kind of go, oh, well, right, why didn't I think of that? I feel like we've kind of been duped by our culture a little bit, by our society, to not go to that solution or that opportunity first before we're sort of conditioned to get really upset and really scared about our circumstances. Most of us are not taught how to regulate at a young age. Not many
Yeah.
generations understood what that even means. So what we're bringing into the conversation with the book, with this philosophy is, can we take a deep breath and regulate? Can we go internal for just a second and allow that to permeate and have a ripple effect on the external circumstances around us? And then if we do that, do we notice that things start to get a little bit easier in our lives?
So there's a lot there. I'm going to try and go
Totally.
back and dissect just
You'll
a
notice
bit.
I'll never answer in a short form. It's not
That's
my
okay.
forte.
I don't either. 5 minutes later, here you go. Okay, so there's kind of two things that I got from this conversation. One, my initial thought was, of course, as you would introduce this book, it gets to be easy. Oh, I want that. Yeah, I want that easy life. Okay. It's not that life is without its struggles. It's when we are internally in alignment, it feels that we walk with ease. So you're not eliminating all the things that are coming at you, but rather how you sit with them. Is that right?
I agree with that. Yes. And I would categorize that as the myth of easy versus ease. In the book, I define the
Yeah.
difference and why most people confuse the two. And that there is this invisible effort, the unseen work of inner shifts, boundaries, healing, presence that goes into this essence of ease that I'm inviting people to receive and exhibit. Because what gets to be easy is about identifying areas of life where people unconsciously choose struggle, money, love,
Yeah.
work, identity. But ease really invites the notion that desire could be a compass rather than guilt, fear, or obligation. Ease requires you to reclaim authorship of your story. So you get to become the main character in your life again. And doesn't that just sound pretty easy?
Like
I'm living my
where
life,
you want to be. Yeah. It
right?
does sound easy. And we do have this mantra, and especially in my generation, when they came home from World War II, they had all of us baby boomers, and It was all about the strive, the struggle. The great things came out of the war because now America was claiming all of its industrial, fortitude and strength. And it became about lifting yourself. And I think that's the greatest lesson or unlesson that my mother taught me was that, you are the fruits of your labors. Nothing more, nothing less. I believed my worth as a being was on how much I could accomplish. I believed that at deep, deep levels. And if I wasn't accomplishing, I was then what? Worthless. And if I was accomplishing, I was giving myself some similitude of worth, even though that wasn't what it truly was. And it wasn't really until I retired I began this process at age 50, but when I finally let go of my career at age 65, then you have to just take a look. Okay, all those accomplishments, where do they live? Back there. It's what I bring each day. It's the life that I'm creating for myself. That's where my worth is. And my life now, I'm almost 72, is opened up to this point of, oh yeah, I'm going to live to be 105. I have so much more to learn and so much more to live. I can't have spent that much of my life living in the struggle. Now, and I think what you're saying is not that my life would have been any different. I still could have had all of those struggles, but I would have walked through them easier if I understood my worth and my authenticity of who I am.
I mean, that's a mic drop right there. Everybody take that in for a second, because really what I also hear you're saying, there would have been different meaning in the choices. There would have been a different feeling behind the story. And, I'm raised by baby boomers as well. I mean, for most of my life, I've been raised with a lot of freedom. And I say that very upfront to people. I was raised with a lot of privilege and a lot of freedom and a lot of love and support to explore what made me happy. But I was modeled that, worth and fulfillment and success came from achievement. It came from doing things. And so when people model back to me, you have this, laundry list of achievements. I'm the first to say, and that's why I got them all out of the way early on. That's why I worked really hard early on, because I'll be the first to say those achievements didn't necessarily make me happier. They didn't necessarily make me more fulfilled. They didn't necessarily bring me more accolades and abundance and fame. But I'm so grateful because each of those achievements raised me up as a human. They took me to a new level of my understanding of myself. And that's a currency that many people don't talk about. It's something that, in fact, we're almost kind of encouraged to turn away from. Well, what's intrinsic value? That doesn't buy groceries. That doesn't pay the bills. That doesn't get a car and, get you the job. But at the same time, and again, I always note this is from a place of privilege. We live in a culture and a society in a place where many of us are fortunate enough to have a roof over our heads and clothes on our back. But the ability to go through life making choices that are in alignment with who you are is a privilege, but it is something that every person can do every day. It's why we hear so many stories about people in, war-torn countries who go, but I was happy with my family and with my, daily task. I found joy. I found peace. There's an ability to be at ease in any situation, despite your external circumstances, because it's an internal shift. But I will say I'm the first, and I'm actually going through this really deeply right now, where the inner conditioning to keep hustling, to keep achieving is still there. And it's something I'm the first to say. I'm my own client. I have to condition myself and do my own work all the time to remind myself it gets to be easy. But I also remind people, and it goes back to that first question. When we ask someone, okay, what's your name? What do you do? I go, what do you really want to know? Do you want my accomplishments so that you can validate my worth? Or do you want to know who I am and see if there's a connection here and that we can actually be comfortable around each other? That is ease. The other one is easy because I could easily say, yeah, I'm a best-selling author. I have a good amount of money based off the work that I do, and people know my name. So my value goes up to some people who go, oh, there's something, that's an easy, there's a reward from knowing that person. But true ease is going, but can I have a conversation with you? Do I want to see you again? Do you remember something about me?
Yeah.
That's a good way. I like to really give that example to people because it really shifts something in somebody when they go, oh, that's me. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm really looking at things externally in versus internally out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it is a thing that I kind of always toy back and forth, even on this podcast. And I'm sure you went through that on your podcast, where you want your listeners to know this person and to give them the credence that they have knowledge and wisdom. But yet you don't want to be the showcase. And here is their list of accomplishments. In case you can't see it, we'll bring it closer for you,
Right.
And
right.
so it's a little bit of a double-edged sword.
Totally.
But, one of the things I loved about your book, in the very beginning, you said, so many people say to people, to young people especially, or people who are in the middle of a struggle with a problem, they'll say, oh, just be yourself. Don't worry about what the world thinks. Just be yourself. And then you blatantly threw it out there in the middle of the arena and said, but how? How do I just be myself? And that truly is what your book is about, is teaching you the how and all the different methodologies and modalities that you have used and encourage clients and readers to use to truly walk into their authentic self. I'm going to give you an example of one in your book.
Please.
And then I want you to give me an example of your favorite whatever. Okay. It's way into the book. Okay. Just so you know. But you talk about different therapies or techniques that people use or recommend to allow their being to settle into this state where they can begin to receive from our universe who we are, and also remove all of our learned behaviors from our mind and our heart so that we can feel truly who we are. And you do a bunch of modalities. The one, of course, that was, you don't know this about me, but all my listeners do, that would just strike me is the Celtic wave.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Okay. 4 years ago, I went to Ireland for the first time with a guy that I just started dating. It was crazy that I even asked him to go.
Ooh, love it.
And while we were there, we had an experience that it wasn't the kind of experience I'd ever had before, where I knew we had been together before. And I was like, what, the monkey? I mean, seriously, what? I don't have this kind of thing happen to me, but I continued to have it while I was in Ireland. And when I came home, I couldn't stop listening to Celtic music. I looked at my pictures all the time. I thought, I'm supposed to move to Ireland. That's it. I'm supposed to move to Ireland. And people would say, I don't think it's supposed that you're supposed to move to Ireland, but there's a lesson there for you. And so what is that lesson? And it was in a time when I did a lot of meditation in the morning. And and I wanted to know, I so desired to know how time worked. I want to know about time. If I was with John before, for me there was no doubt, how does time work? It's not linear. So what is it? And I just began, and I had read about Celtic wave and making the figure 8 over your body. And as I was in the middle of doing that one morning for meditation, it suddenly came to me, thank you for this answer. This is how time works. This is not a figure 8. This is the sign of infinity. And John and I crossed at this point before, and then again. And that realization and that practice is still with me today, every morning. Even
Wow.
when there's snow on the ground, I'm barefoot on the ground.
Wow.
Doing my infinity sign over me. And it grounds me every day to who I am and the expanse of who I am that I still don't know. Just imagine all the times I've been around this sign of infinity, I don't know all of her. So it keeps me open and alive and looking and at ease, knowing that it's going to pass. And I get to move on and time comes again. And the sign of infinity is what? It's so smooth. And if I live in that, it's such a beautiful place to exist. That's just one of the things that are in your book as to how. So thank you for affirming that and putting it in your book.
Thank you for mirroring
Tell me your
that. I've had
favorite.
nobody. Well, first of all, that was in beautiful. I mean, wow, that was beautifully said. First of all, such an expressionist you are, obviously, with such a platform. And I have had nobody actually mirror back that modality to me. I mean, that was taught to me years ago
Oh,
by an energy worker. And many people, I show that to a lot of people whenever I'm doing a workshop. We always open and close with a wave. And I've never heard anybody have such a profound experience with it like I have before, where it really does call in not just consciousness, but that timeline, that infinity, that sense of
yeah.
universe that you're weaving into your system and giving your energy that awareness. So just thank you for sharing. I'm so happy that it resonated so deeply with you. And also, I need more about that love story another time. My favorite, I'm like, girl, we have more talks to be had.
Well, a year ago we did get married, and we did go back to the same monastery site and we were married there. Yeah.
Wow, congratulations. What a story. Okay, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I would say out of the modalities I list in the book, for me specifically, the one that I like to highlight the most, I talk about towards the end, and that is water release therapy. It's called WRT. It's
And
derived
I haven't
from,
done that. So I want you to
girl,
explain the whole thing of that from start to end. Well,
definitely.
not all of
So
it maybe, but
I'll give you the short form. So my mentor,
okay.
Diane Feingold, I found her years ago after getting some spiritual download messages that I was meant to work with water. And years ago, like back in the 80s, a man named Harold Dull created Watsu. He didn't create it, but he sort of brought it to California, made it famous. And it's sort of this water therapy in which your body is held by a facilitator and moved through the water, giving you the experience of water. The best way I like to describe what WRT is, which Diane learned from Harold, the Watsu master, created her own modality. And this is where you actually go under the water, which is not common in Watsu. The point of this is someone's holding you, you're in the water, you're floating, and you are given the experience of water. The way that this is best explained is you're feeling the weightlessness, you're feeling the buoyancy, you're feeling the movement, and your muscles, your bones, your skeleton, your body gets to relax in a way where it sort of feels like massage stretching, and Reiki all within the water. And when you're going
Wow.
underneath, you're getting this experience of what it most likely was like to be in the womb. So we're going
Yeah.
back to the
That's the
beginning,
first thing
back
I
to the
thought.
core.
Yeah.
It's very womb healing, especially for women, because we carry so much tension in our hips, in our
Yeah.
shoulders. We're
Yeah.
always burdened with the weight of the world on us and the emotional trauma that many women carry. I like to suggest water therapy as much as we can, water release therapy specifically, because you're held, first of all. That's, for me, I'm a very strong individual. That's the word that a lot of people use to describe me. I'm very vulnerable. In fact, I'm extremely sensitive, but strong is always the word that people associate with me. And so there's
Yeah.
not a lot of expectations that I need a lot of help or that I need a lot of support. So to be in the water where you're already vulnerable and someone's holding you, that for me was already just the first step of letting
Yeah.
it be easy, letting someone hold me. Then you start to be moved and you start to realize, wow, this is so weightless and so easy. You start to then melt into a mindset of ease. I'm going to let this person work on me. I'm going to allow this person to hold me. I'm going to trust the water. And when I've been underwater, I've had visions, I've had emotional release and breakdowns, I've had extreme love come through, very deep compassion moments, and just a lot of awareness about myself. So when people always ask, what do you do to decompress? I say, I get in the water because that's where I am the most myself. That's my element. I meditate with fire and I release with water. So I'll stare at a candle, I'll burn incense, I'll burn sage.
Ah.
I'll have that as sort of a modality to kind of set my brain into motion. But ease for me has always been in the water. And so I don't usually talk about that much nobody asks me often
Wow.
about the modalities, but it's something, if you're ever in California and you have the chance to work with Diane Feingold and do water release therapy, I highly recommend it. She is a goddess and a mentor, and
Got it.
any way that you can get in the water is a really beautiful, tangible setting to see what your body does. Do you fight against water? Are you holding your breath and clenching? Are you constantly moving? What happens when you release into water? It's a very tangible way to see how your nervous system relates to the concept of ease and easy.
Okay. So let's just talk what I went through right there. I'm like, okay, water therapy,
Mm-hmm.
what's that? That sounds great. The moment you talked about, I was right with you. I was right with you. I'm like, oh, I can just feel that. I was like, okay, I
Mm-hmm.
got this. And then you said, you even go underwater. My entire body tensed up. I was sitting here, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, I should never the hell, I'm not going to hell do that. Underwater, let somebody be in charge of me be underwater. I'm no
Mm-hmm.
way, no how, no, what. And it was the hardest part for me about learn to scuba dive, was to be underwater. And even though you're in control, you're not in control because you can't just
Totally.
shoot to the surface. And I thought, okay, I'm probably not ever going to do that. And then as you continue to go on, I realized how much my body yearned to be at ease in the
Mm.
water.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'll
So
share
I
this with
thought
you.
I had done some womb healing, but there's perhaps more. Yeah.
That instinct to want to go underwater and that resistance, it is one of the first questions I will ask clients that I work with. If I was to be in the water with you and I was to ask you to hold your breath and go underwater, what does your body do immediately? And some
Yeah.
people will say, oh, I sink into it. And some people will say, I just got tight. And I
Yeah.
would say that the tightness is so deeply related to the permission that we do and do not give ourselves for rest,
Ah,
for desire, for a different way of being. And so that instinct, I mean, girl, follow that, because water is just, it's the easiest place to practice what our minds are constantly reconditioning and reminding ourselves of every single day. So that is why that's my favorite modality. And I will also say
well,
too, I had a vision years ago. I don't ever tell anybody this, but we're gonna put it into the world. I was in Costa Rica on a retreat. I was this was before I did ayahuasca and all the plant medicine. So this was just a pure vision. And something showed me being in the water and I, the facilitator, touching and working with all these different bodies. And I went, okay, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that means. And I spoke to someone on this retreat about it. I said, I had this weird vision yesterday. And the girl I was speaking to, who's one of my best friends now, said, it sounds like you're describing this thing called Watsu. And I thought, okay, that's planted in my head. Months later, I'm doing a meditation and I'm speaking to spirit guides and I put it out there. I speak to things, to people. And this
Me
spirit
too.
guide comes
It's okay.
forward. I mean, you know what? We normalize it. If you're hearing voices, I'm sure you'll know if it's not a good voice or not.
Well, I hear them a lot now.
Yeah, now. I mean, and if you're in touch, they come through pretty easily. But I heard this voice and it was, you need to pursue the water. And I asked, what is that? Like, who am I speaking to? And the voice said, this is Harold. And I'm thinking, spirit guide Harold came in? Who the heck is Harold in the universe? And a month or two later, I'm going online. I'm looking for like Watsu certifications, Watsu classes. And I go, holy moly, the creator of this modality's name was Harold. And I go online and I find.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, this is like the stuff you just don't, you can't make up, you know? It's like, how do you
can't make this shit up. Yeah.
But I end up going online, realizing that to become certified, it was a lot more extensive than I realized. So I find Diane, who did water release therapy, a derivative of Watsu, and she became one of my biggest mentors and biggest supporters. And I became certified in level 1 water release therapy. And you just think, okay, like I could have resisted that, but I let it be easy, followed it. And now here we are having this conversation where you're getting some instinct about that, and that's ease.
Yeah.
That's kind of
I want to point out to my listeners, because our time's about up, but there is this sense inside of me to stand naked before you, before my listeners, and yet old fears say, don't show that piece that you tensed up. That would mean you are not all the way healed, blah, blah, blah. But the need, the desire, let me rephrase that, my desire to be vulnerable and to allow people to see me naked so that they know it's okay for them to be naked too. Mm-hmm. I was able to share that with you and then my listeners, that's one of the greatest gifts that you can give yourself. And the greatest gift that I gave to you was allow you to see me naked. Mm-hmm. That it still has inside of me, even at this age, a tense, there's healing yet. And I can choose. I can choose to ignore it and it can manifest somewhere else. Or I can choose to embrace it and to heal it. Or I can choose to acknowledge it, but still choose not to do anything about it. And so, which one am I going to do? I think I'm coming to California.
Ooh, girl. Either come to California or come to my retreat in November, because either way, I'm like, we're practicing ease, right?
Yes. Okay. Now, I know you're going to send me all the things about you so my listeners can continue to follow you and I can continue to follow you and I can learn about this retreat. Hey, how about let's a bunch of us go? Okay. I love that idea. Okay. So.
Yes, Queen.
Yes, Queen. We're going to include the link for the book, which is on Amazon audio. Is it Audible as well?
We are going to have the audiobook out this summer, so stay tuned.
Wow,
Summer
okay.
Listen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you're reading it yourself, I'm sure, because you're so good at that. I read my own book because I wanted it to do it, but afterwards I thought, I probably shouldn't have done that.
I'm like, I know, I hear myself and I go, okay, this is going to be fun, but it had to be me. It had to be.
And then we're going to include your website and all sorts of different links so that people can stay connected to you. I know, Julia, I want to stay connected to you. I know that the years and age and experience between us does not separate us,
Mm. Mm.
that our souls see each other.
Mm.
And I love that. So, listeners, this could be a great opportunity for us, first of all, to read the book together. And then I've read the book, but now I want to listen to it because it's going to be in Julia's voice, which is my favorite thing I've discovered to do. Read the book and then listen to it. I don't like to do it the other way around. I get bored reading if I've listened to it first. But if I've read the book and then listened to it, it's like, I get that. I totally feel that. It solidifies it in me. So, yeah. And I just want to thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your wisdom and for listening to your light and allowing yourself to be seen. That is such a gift that you have given us. And thank you.
Oh, thank you. This was, again, any opportunity to get to speak about that which I'm truly passionate about, which is, I'm not promising anyone an easy life. I'm inviting all into a life of ease, one where you don't have to fight yourself or prove your worth or earn your right to rest. And so thank you for the opportunity to just get to talk. I think it's one of the most beautiful forms of love and connection that we get. And I'm very grateful. And like you said, we're going to link all of our links, but the easiest way to find me is iamjuliahenning.com or on Instagram, iamjuliahenning. And like I said, I'm hosting a retreat up in the Redwood Forest this November. It's called Symposium, and it's an immersive experience blending narrative storytelling and folklore and ease and goddess energy. And I just invite anybody who's looking for a place to really practice and embody ease, join us this November. It's going to be a really magical experience, and I hope I get to see you there. So thank you so much for this time. It's been great.
And if you have promos, please link me or tag me in them as a collaborator, whatever you're doing, so I can repost them and share them as well. And to all of my listeners, thank you so much for being with us today and crafting that meaningful life that allows us to find that beautiful person inside that was given to us and that we have been creating for eons now. Discover her, find her. Namaste.